Haven't y'all tried miracle food yet?
Miracle food.
Mega food.
Miracle foods.
Miracle food.
Miracle food.
Miracle food.
Miracle food.
Miracle food.
Please support your Black businesses and support your health. This is a tool to genuinely heal people. It's through the roof. I feel like I'm low-key levitating in this bitch. This should be in your cabinets.
Kenyatta Griggs, we got an opportunity to go out there and pay homage to Nip and pay respects to Nip where he lived and where he eventually fell. And we kind of just took it upon ourselves to make sure that when we did news and we did things regarding the situation, we tried to do it the right way. There's been a lot of things going on about Nip, especially with the internet age. You can pretty much say whatever you want, and we've heard it all. You know what I mean? So I know you took it upon yourself also to start getting into the coverage and getting into the research behind his passing. So talk about that. Talk about your eventual work and getting into the Nipsey Hussle case. We see the case is going on right now, about to conclude. But the things and the events that led up to where we're at right now, we've had some years now. So talk about your information and your research in Nipsey Hussle's passing.
Sure. Well, I started off I was adding to the fuckery pie. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I've transitioned now into an independent investigative journalist, just been tightening it up and trying to get better every day. And salute to you guys as well. Just like you said, man, you guys you got, respectfully, I say this, but you guys don't know how important the shit that you've done has been towards furthering the justice movement or shining light on things. For TJ Lofton, an unbelievable interview. So these things. So hats off to you guys. Deserve massive amounts of roses. The cowboy interview that you guys recently did. There's a lot of jewels that came out of that. When it comes to the factual circumstances of this case, there's a lot of issues, but I highlighted a couple key points here that I think are very important. We've been told that the getaway driver, her name is Brianita Nicholson now. And how the official, quote unquote, the official story goes is that Brianita and Eric Holder met each other in February of 2019. TMZ actually did some pretty good coverage, and they have a live from April 2nd, and it's the story is titled Nipsey Hussle Murder, the Cops Crack Down on the Suspect. This video is still available on their website. At a minute and 25 seconds in, they have an interesting story about the getaway driver or the woman. And they say that in June of 2018, a car with the same license plate that police shared went to an auto shop less than a block away from where Eric Holder had turned himself in Bellflower, where he was arrested. The receipt for the service that happened to that vehicle, it had Eric Holder's name attached to it and then a phone number. So TMZ called that phone number and a woman answered, claiming that she did not know Eric Holder a year prior, which that doesn't make too much sense here, But she also did confirm to them that she was the one that was driving Eric Holder on that Sunday, March 31st. This is that's one key point that's like we would like some explanations for that. So we kind of go with the who, what, when, where, why, and how. But right now we're talking about the time. So during the grand jury proceedings, we have Carrie Lathan and then we have Herman Douglas, both testified to things happening to Nip during the 1 o'clock hour versus 3:20 as Los Angeles County states. So I'm trying to get to the truth of it. So what I do is I go to the county records, so like the public records requests. So it's request number 20-967. This is a public records request from National Public Radio, where they ask for a number of different things. I'll just give you a brief synopsis here. But you get this itinerary of they call it the factual circumstances of the incident, and it's a couple things, a couple anomalies. That said the date and time of the report was not indicated on the report, nor was the name and age of the victim. And then I'm going to read this to you verbatim.
Okay.
Factual circumstances of the incident. A person reporting stated that a person got shot and that the suspect was still possibly at the location. Then at 16:40, which is 4:40 now, right? 4:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, another caller stated that a suspect had a rag around the neck. It was red, and they had a red shirt or a black shirt on. They were armed with a Glock, and then that person that was reporting, they yelled for an ambulance. This is from the LA City.nextrequest.com. So this is the official place where you go to request these records, you know, and their archive of those that have been backlogged. So that's when you're trying to get some clarity on some things, that and you run into official records like that doesn't help, you know. You caveat that with Kerry Lathan and Herman Douglas also stating that it was the 1 o'clock hour in which something happened. Nipsey doubled down. Herman Douglas doubled down on the 1 o'clock hour in his testimony at trial. So we're like, okay, what's going on with this 1 o'clock hour? So I got an interview with a brother that was on site. His name is Damon Johnson. Damon Johnson is now, excuse me, he's a neighborhood council president, Damon Johnson. So he's an elected official. This brother is constantly with like the Mayor Eric Garcetti. You always see him with Governor Gavin Newsom. The Los Angeles Times, they report on him frequently because he's always in the field advocating on, you know, behalf of our people for whatever the issue is at hand. He's like always out there. And he was an eyewitness to the emergency vehicles showing up on scene that day. And Damon Johnson is also a Marine Corps veteran as well. It's a very reputable brother, you know. He says that he was absolutely positive that things took place during the 1 o'clock hour. He said, I looked at my watch, man, because I seen all these, I seen everything happening starting to unfold. I looked at my watch. It was like 1:10, 1:15. That's what he says. He says, I go over there and checking the whole thing out, and you can see him on pretty much all the footage, you know, immediately that was released. You see Brother Damon Johnson. So for him to be so sure, not only sure, but he took a lot of Facebook videos, you know what I mean, which are time-stamped. So this 1 o'clock hour stuff, it's pretty puzzling to us. You know, we would like some explanations. And if this did happen during the 1 o'clock hour, we're like curious how Nipsey tweeted having strong enemies is a blessing at 2:52 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You know, we got a 2-hour gap here. Along with that, everybody knows like LMA's song Boot Up. The woman that wrote that song, her name is Joelle James. So Joelle James had posted a receipt on her Instagram, and the receipt said 13:24 Pacific Standard Time, you know, or 1:24. Nipsey's mentor, Bob Francis, who had attended the Texas Tech versus Gonzaga Elite Eight basketball game with Nip. It's actually Bob Francis's son that was playing, Brand One Francis. He posted a picture of himself inside of the Marathon clothing store at 1:13 Pacific Standard Time. So there's a lot of like mystery around this 1 o'clock hour. You know, there's a couple of the, you know, couple of the big questions, you know, with the like the larger asterisks next to them. Yeah.
Man.
There's Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Oh no, finish your thought, please.
Oh, no. There's you guys will just have to stop me. I mean, because I could go. I guess the last thing I'll leave you with that there's another individual. His name is Joshua John Birga, aka Kid Flashy. He took one of the last photos with Nip. He did an interview with a show that goes by the LA Show, and in this interview, Joshua John Birga, he says, yeah, I was there. There's this guy, you know the guy that there's an old man there that Nipsey lets him sweep up the plaza. So he mistakes Slauson Bruce for being Kerry Lathan. He says, yeah, well, that guy, he pulled out a weapon and he fired back at Eric Ronald Holder. Joshua John Birga he's an eyewitness. You watch him on the Camera 6 videotape. It's been coined as the TMZ video, but the security camera footage, that's a Camera 6 according to the exhibits. And you watch Joshua John Birga is right there watching everything. So it's like, whoa. So this witness that wasn't called is saying that there was a secondary a shooter there, and he's pinning Kerry Lathan, confusing his identity for Slauson Bruce, but he's saying that Kerry Lathan pulled out a firearm and shot back. Like, how to the district attorney John McKinney, like, we would like to know why that witness wasn't called. Why wasn't he taught? He wouldn't have been a hard guy to track down. He ran into some legal problems and he's now residing in Attica Correctional Facility. So, this would have been an easy guy to get a hold of. Like, we're going to need to subpoena him for a testimony,
Right. Now, you said a lot, man. It's a lot to uncover there, but I want to ask you about the the camera angles. How come none of the other stores, in your opinion, like you had a T-Mobile store, I'm thinking there were no other camera angles, but besides the one where he ran past, went into the burger joint and ran past the burger joint. Then they got the one like across the street. So what happened to the other camera angles? Do you know anything about that? And how come
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's what I'm gonna do is what they call it here, back channel. I'm gonna send you guys a link right now.
Okay.
A lot of people miss this for whatever reason, but this is an article. I try to keep it as I try to stay with the Wire, the credible services, and like the .gov websites as much as I can. So this information here comes from the Associated Press, and this article is from Andrew Dalton. It came out on April 10th of 2019. The title of it is "Court Papers Confirm a Shooting During the Vigil for the Slain Rapper." So I'm not gonna read the whole article, just the key points though. Los Angeles, 2 women were wounded by gunfire last week as a crowd scattered during a vigil for Nipsey Hussle hours after the rapper was killed. And police are looking for the shooter, according to court papers obtained Wednesday by the Associated Press. So we're going to skip down. Excuse me, fellas. We're going to skip down a couple of paragraphs here. And we'll find out here what happened to those. So it's about the 5th or 6th paragraph down. Police Wednesday said that the women were treated for gunshot wounds and their injuries were not life-threatening. 19 people were injured at the 19 people were injured at the vigil. Most of them were hurt during the stampede. Businesses at the shopping center had declined to give police surveillance video on the night of the vigil, but using the warrant, police took video recorders from the Marathon, a mobile phone store, and a barbershop.
Damn.
So there's our answer right there, as to where that footage went. Officer Scott Swanson was the one that wrote the warrant. And so, it appears from what the Associated Press has reported that the LAPD confiscated the additional camera angles.
Let me ask you this, because we had a lot of different theories that came out, and there was a lot of theories that were being thrown around. But like I said, we try to just be as educated as possible, being in a position we are, looking at it from a neutral point of view.
Yes, sir.
And the LAPD in particular was somebody or some faction that we were like, if there was anything that raised a red flag, it may be them because of the relationship that they had with Nip and various things that went on. If there were any conspiracy theories that we can hang our hat on, it's maybe that the LAPD had a little more to do with the situation that meets the eye. Now we see the situation with Eric Holder going on. We've seen the guns. We've seen him running. It looks like a case of cut and dry where this dude was just a fool acting on his own accord. But we can't help but to look at certain things and make us believe there may be more to the story without being ignorant to the actual case. Not being ignorant to the actual case. In your opinion, how much, if any, does the LAPD have involvement in this situation?
Well, that's a tough question. So I can't put like a percentage on it, or anything like that, and I try not to speculate too much these days, just as tightening it up from a journalistic standpoint. The only thing I can do is look at and analyze the data. We got to look at these programs that they've had, like the citywide nuisance abatement program. I believe TJ Lofton spoke about that, and Kenyatta spoke about that as well. Now, that program had been launching an attack on that property, not necessarily just Nip, but on that property itself for the quote unquote the gang activity. In all fairness, they did have a point, it appears, from the footage that we see in the stories, the police reports that have come out. It appears that they did have a point, but this is Los Angeles, and there's a lot of tribal boundaries. Is what I'm saying? It's a very tribal area, and so the infractions that they were utilizing to attack that property, they were really applicable to any property that you go to in Los Angeles. So in that regard, it seems, we can raise an eyebrow to that. Then you have, Operation Laser with the data-driven policing. There's a great piece that came out. It's called Automated Banishment. And they go into a detail of how things like Cal Gangs, which was their database for registering who they thought or who they knew were gang members. There were children as young as 1 year old inside of Cal Gangs. So this is a point that is real important. Nipsey, according to Wes McBride, the creator of Cal Gangs, was very likely inside of that database. He had been stopped like multiple times. Nip talks about that. He was definitely in Cal Gangs, if you ask me. But so Nipsey, as it pertains to the property of 3420 West Slauson Avenue, the owner of that property is actually an entity. It's called Slauson and Crenshaw Ventures LLC. The registered agents, or the people that own that company, are Samuel Askinam and David Gross, right? So they had it's such a cold game. Nipsey wasn't on this property listed on Slauson and Crenshaw Ventures LLC as an owner due to that that database of Cal Gangs. Because what happens when you're underneath the guise of the citywide nuisance abatement program, at the end of the day, if you continue to get infractions, they can just snatch your property from you. So do not pass go. Don't collect the 200. They just take your property, and you just got to deal with that, So anytime that he stepped on his own property, it could have been utilized as an infraction, to go against them using the citywide nuisance abatement program. So that's one reason why he wasn't, listed as a principal owner. But to wrap it up with the LAPD, we just got to look at the data and things like that. And if there's some type of cover up happening here, if there's a conspiracy that's happening here, which if we could just get some answers for these questions, like with time. But if there are no answers, you know, and there is a continued discrepancy, or we find out that in fact this time was not 320, but it was, then you would have to. And there are factions, there are people inside of the LAPD, not the LAPD as a whole, but there would be some corrupt, you know, members inside of it, and they don't have a very clean history for you know, having a clean house all the way,
Right.
a la Rampart and however many other scandals, you know.
Right.
In your opinion, you know, all of your, you know, investigative journalism that you've been doing over the last few years.
Yes, sir.
What do you think happened to Nipsey? What are you pointing to here, if you may?
I'm not sure. I don't know. There's this the amount of looming questions that we have make it hard to hone in on any particular theory. I don't negate the official story that Eric Holder came to the Marathon store and did what he did. I don't negate that at all. I'm just wondering what's up with these time discrepancies, and we have another a large piece that's been missed by the majority of people as well, by no fault of their own. Nipsey had the world's first smart store. This brother's business acumen was incredible, you know. The Marathon clothing store, we have several pieces of footage from that day. The inside of the Marathon clothing store is in complete disarray. There is a beautiful, like, black shelving unit in the back of his store that has been completely ripped out. The ceiling tiles on the back row are all busted out. You have these like wires that are hanging down from the ceiling. Take a look at the floor. The entire floor has been ripped up hastily. You can see the mesh underlay from the snap flooring or tile flooring, whatever kind of flooring you had in there. There's a mesh underlay that goes between the cement and then the flooring itself. This is sticking out in places. The flooring itself, you know, it's like somebody just came and was pushing, just snapping it out. So you get these jagged edges everywhere. Anybody that's ever been through or around any type of construction site comes to that black shelving unit. You know, when you snap steel, you know, a lot of times it turns into a bunch of razor blades. You know, you touch that stuff, it'll cut you real easily. And you know, these grade changes on the floor. Now, there's a video that captures the state of the store, and then it captures who was alleged to be Nip in the parking lot. And there's children running around in this store. The best way I can put it for a businessman is that's an insurance liability, a massive insurance liability. So for what we know of Nip, you know, his acumen, the brother that he was, the businessman that he was, it doesn't seem to jive with that he would allow children to be running around the inside of his store when it's looking like a construction zone, you know. And again, a massive insurance liability. So I have a question, like, what happened to the inside of that store? So there's that question. We contrast that with Kerry Lathan's testimony and the things that he said on record when he did a Vlad interview, and then one with just Big U and he were talking. And his footsteps as he takes us through the happenings of that day. Kerry says, I went there to get a shirt. I went inside of the Marathon clothing store that day, and they said they didn't have the shirt I was looking for. They told me Nip's outside. You can go talk to him and ask him when that'll be in. And so I did that. I walked outside and went to talk to Nip, and then everything went all bad. When it comes time for grand jury, and Deputy District Attorney John McKinney is examining his witness, he walks Carrie from ever being inside of the Marathon clothing store that day. He says, Carrie, you made a number of statements here, stating that you were inside of the Marathon clothing store, but in fact, you were not inside of the Marathon clothing store that day. Is that correct? Carrie says, you know what? Let me read this to you verbatim, so that you guys have it for sure.
Yes, sir.
I made like a slight, a miniature little data point presentation here.
You take your time, bro.
Okay. Pull up this folder and then we'll be good. Hip hop uncensored.
Definitely. If you're listening, man, if you're listening on a podcast, no matter where you're listening, make sure you share the video. Make sure you leave a comment below. Let us know how much you're enjoying the content here today. The verdict should be coming in, in a couple of days. So perfect time for this interview.
In the building right now with Blaxon, the great. Go ahead, brother. You ready?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Apologies. You let this joker load up here. So this is from volume 1 of the grand jury transcripts. It's on page 144, line 5. The question from the district attorney. Okay, so I know you previously testified that when you went to the store, it was your intent to go in and buy a shirt. Is that correct? Right. Is that yes? That's correct. But the fact is, you never went into the store to attempt to make a purchase, correct? Carrie says, no. They said he's outside. I said, okay. It feels like a you had one job moment. It's like, well, when, by Carrie's rebuttal of saying they said he's outside, that would seem to indicate that you're inside talking to some more than one person, which he's alleged to have just shown up with his nephew, Shermy Villanueva. We a lot of us refer to him as the magic belt buckle guy. He just has one of the most amazing belt buckles of all time. It's incredible. That belt buckle should be right next to JFK's magic bullet in the Smithsonian or something.
Yeah. Saved his life.
Yeah, it really did though, because Nip was hit in the right abdomen, and they said that it was that round that wound up transecting his spine. So that belt buckle, really, that's one hell of a belt buckle,
Absolutely. You brought up time a lot. Let's break down the time and the conflicting reports on time. Why is that a very important piece to this situation, and why are the conflicting reports on time so important to this case? And one more thing, if you don't mind answering, is this a case of just error, or do these type of errors typically happen? This is something that they don't mess with because it's that important. Can you talk about that for us?
Sure. Only to the extent that I know. So I had a conversation with a few different different people that their career field is law enforcement, and one dispatcher as well. And they said that, clerical errors and things like this, they're going to happen from time to time. But the general consensus that I got was that when it comes to the date and time of a report, though, you're not really going to miss that one too often, to have that completely missing from your official records. The time discrepancy, I don't know what that's all about. That's one of the things that drives me crazy. I would like to know. And that there's a large pocket of us who have been following this case and researching, to try to find out what really happened. that have that question too, and we would just like questions from Los Angeles County. We would like answers from Los Angeles County to literally just to clear up the conspiracy theory. You know, we just I don't know what the discrepancy is in time, what that's all about. I've been trying my ass off to figure it out, you know. And the more that I dig in that rabbit hole, it's like I just turn up more circumstantial evidence that to point to some type of either massive mistake, you know, clerical error, or conspiracy. You know, it's and I try to get away from the conspiracy theory stuff as much as possible.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's a safe way to go, because I mean, anybody can throw out any kind of conspiracy, but when you're trying to do the work you're trying to do, you got to kind of let all that go. But
Yes,
as
sir.
evidence kind of comes your way, it's kind of hard not to confirm that one particular theory, I can imagine. But I appreciate it for sure.
Yeah. I wish I had an answer for that. You know what I'm saying? That would help a lot of us gain closure as it stands with these questions that we have. And this we haven't even touched on the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? But it just, the trial, we thought that was going to help us clear up a lot of the confusion, but it's kind of it's gone the opposite way. You know, it's really gone the opposite way, and that's it's like, come on, man. You know, come on.
Why do you think that